Chancellor Radio Productions presents, in association with Bucketnaut Media Productions and Squatch Film, The Tragedy of the Helios, an audio production in 4 parts, written by Matt Whitney. Episode 1, Terra, Australius. November 22nd, 1935.
My dear Sophia, I have missed you so these last months at sea, and the children. I think of you often to pass the long hours and days since we set sail from Cape Horn.
Dr. David Klosterman sat hunched over a small table, writing his letter. He was middle-aged, with a beard he had only grown for the Antarctic cold. He found it scratchy and uncomfortable. His conditions were cramped and cluttered. Mercifully, he had his own cabin, but tall as he was, it made standing impossible. Save for a bed and the table he occupied, there was no furniture. In its place was no shortage of wooden shipping crates, their contents the myriad of instruments Klosterman and his colleagues would use for their research.
I curse myself daily that I did not bring more books. There is nothing to do on this accursed ship. I can walk it bow to stern in 50 paces, and the only sight is endless ocean.
Klosterman paused to glance out his grimy porthole window at the rollicking sea. Salty spray hit the thick glass. Though the fog was thick this afternoon, Klosterman thought he spotted a small ship bobbing in the distance. Of course, the notion was ridiculous. They were more than 1,000 miles from any land but the Antarctic coast.
Unlike poor Dr. Astor, I find the waves to be quite calming and would be content to stay in my chambers day and night reading. But I exhausted my material many weeks ago, and now I must pass the hours studying charts with Astor between his bouts of vomiting.
Klosterman crossed out the last word and considered a more sanitary alternative.
Disquietude.
Once again, Klosterman looked out onto the sea. No longer a phantom, he could clearly see a 2-masted sloop on a path towards the Helios. He wondered to himself why such a vessel was so far from civilization. Putting the boat out of his mind, Klosterman returned to the letter.
I must confess a certain uneasiness that has been growing in my mind. Tomorrow, we reach Camp Samuelson, where I fear some great calamity will befall us all.
David, are you awake? Captain wants to see us on deck.
The deck of the Helios, an 80-foot sailing vessel with 4 sky-scraping masts and innumerable canvas sails that stood out on the cold blue of the sea. On the bow, the ship's name was emblazoned in red, and a wooden statue of the Greek god Helios, crowned with the sun, served as the figurehead. Doctors Klosterman and Astor came topside, in view of the rough crew of the Helios. They were not unwelcome with the crew, but their civilized appearance, academic minds, and soft hands left little in common with the sea-worn sailors.
Boys!
From his position at the helm, Captain Moseley yelled it down to the professors. He was exactly what you would expect an Antarctic sailing captain to be, with a thick beard down to his belly, skin that had seen several lifetimes of sun, and a heavy coat made of whale hide.
Get up here!
Astor exchanged a look with Klosterman. Moseley was a gruff man, but never pushy, and never rude to his passengers.
How can we be of service?
Moseley shoved a spyglass into Klosterman's hand and pointed wordlessly to the east, the same direction where the ship had appeared earlier. Klosterman hesitated to use the spyglass, knowing what he would find. Closing in alarmingly quickly was the sloop. Its sails were a pale yellow and had seen far better days.
More your scientist friends?
No. Dr. Mackenzie would be coming from the west, and he'd be in a much bigger vessel.
That's what worries me.
What does?
Klosterman handed Astor the spyglass.
Boat that small, they probably lost. Probably needs rescuing.
Do you think it could be Ellen Shaw?
Even she wouldn't be foolish enough to sail a boat that small in these seas.
Whoever's they are wants you two talking to them.
Moseley wagged a sausage-sized finger at them.
Why us?
He thinks they'll find us less intimidating.
No, he thinks they'll shoot us first when they board.
Is that possible? Could they be pirates?
This far out? Who'd they be robbing from?
Captain! Ship spotted due east.
The quartermaster called down from the crow's nest. He was a sinewy man, red-haired and covered in exotic tattoos.
Well spotted. Hurry down to receive 'em.
Thank you.
You'll still be saying hello. Just don't want them thinking it's only sissies on board.
Mosley guffawed to himself. He patted both men on the backs to let them know that, while he wholeheartedly believed his statement, it was all in good fun.
We expected trouble, Captain.
No, likely's off course is all.
The men didn't have to wonder long, for within a few minutes the small vessel had pulled alongside them. Signs of old age and neglect were everywhere. Cracks in the hull had been shoddily patched with tar. Any remnants of paint had long since sloughed off, leaving sun-bleached wood. The sails were not canvas, but a thicker, unknown material. They had not held up to the salt spray well, and it was a miracle they still propelled the boat. At the helm was the only visible occupant, a bone-thin man with wispy hair and worn clothes. He looked as if he had been out to sea for years.
Well met, my friend. Can we be of assistance?
Mosley glowered at Klosterman, not wanting to offer aid unless necessary.
Why are you here?
We're scientists on a research expedition.
Are you here for the eclipse?
Yes, we're astronomers.
Klosterman whispered to his colleague.
How does he know about the eclipse?
Dr. Astor seemed unperturbed by this.
Are you here to observe the eclipse as well?
The eclipse is not for your eyes.
Excuse me?
Turn back now. You are not welcome here. Sajane does not welcome you.
The captain returned to his command, steering his small boat away from the Helios.
Aye, sir. Identify yourself. Where do you make port?
The quartermaster raged down the deck as the mysterious vessel sailed away. Klosterman stared at the retreating boat. Through the small window into the hull, he could see figures in black robes moving about. Everyone on board turned to the first mate at the bow.
Large vessel docked offshore.
Must be Mackenzie.
How did he arrive ahead of us?
I have no idea. But perhaps he can shed some light on our visitor.
The professors watched the boat disappear into thick, gathering fog. Tomorrow, they would reach the Antarctic mainland and start their journey to the South Pole. This has been a Chancellor Radio production, in association with Bucketnaut Media Productions and Squatch Film. Written and narrated by Matt Whitney. Performances by Tyler Savino, Jordan Mullins, and Tyler Mason. Editing and sound design by Tyler Savino. Thank you for listening to Episode 1 of The Tragedy of the Helios. Please subscribe to our channel for future episodes and more quality content, and stay tuned for Episode 2, The Wasteland at the End of the World,